Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, which should be none of you, my name is Todd, and I'm the Training and Education Supervisor at Lifestar. I am talking to you today about our radio communications as a result of some observations that were made by more than one dispatcher in the way in which we're choosing to talk on the radio to other jurisdictions in particular. And so I want to talk to you about our radio system and how they work and the way in which we should be interacting with other counties. If you think about it, in a typical day, Lifestar finds itself talking to Washington, Columbia, Dane, Dodge, Fond du Lac, and Adams counties, and that's routine radio communications. If we are sent on a MABAS event or we are sent out of our area, we may find ourselves talking to lots of other jurisdictions as well. And there have been a number of radio protocols that kind of have developed over time in the way we should be speaking on the radio. And so I want to talk about our radio protocols, and I'm also going to explain a little bit about our radio system and why it's not simply a push-to-talk system. These are trunked radio systems, and we're going to talk about that right now. So the first question I want to ask you is, let's pick Washington County as an example. Take a look at the number of agencies that are using the Washington County system. What we're looking at here is a database printout of all of the talk groups that are in the Washington County radio system. Now this is just like Fond du Lac County, Columbia, Dodge, Dane, all the other counties that we deal with. I'm just using Washington County as an example. And when you think talk groups, you should think in terms of a channel. These are all various channels for use on the Washington County radio system that the county pays for, operates, and provides. You'll notice here that there are countywide talk groups listed here at the top, and then it goes into the various subcategories of talk groups. So let's take a quick look at the Washington County talk groups, and you'll see that we use it for law enforcement tactical channels, sheriff events, more tactical channels, and then you have the county fire dispatch and paging is in there, some fire tactical talk groups, the highways departments, scroll down a little bit, and the radio shop and the radio technicians have their talk groups as well. This is just for Washington County government, but the Washington County radio system is used by many units of government throughout the county. Let's take a quick peek at how many people are using this system. And you'll see here that we have Allenton and Boltonville, the town of Erin, Farmington, Fillmore, Germantown. All of these jurisdictions are using it, and you can see that they're using it for police and fire and EMS and roads, the public works departments, streets departments, and many of these jurisdictions. This is a lot of channels or a lot of talk groups on this system. In fact, it's over 200 talk groups or channels just in the Washington County system. You'll see that even the city of West Bend, they have their own dispatchers, but they are using the radio system that's provided by the county. In order to answer the question, how many radio frequencies do we need to set aside to handle all of those talk groups and purposes that were in the list we just looked at, let's listen in right now to the Washington County radio system. No, I'm not having any computer problems here. The truth is, there's nothing going on. And that is the case in almost all talk groups, almost all the time. For the most part, even in a busy radio system, most of the time there is silence going on, and then it's broken up by short moments of speaking, and then we go back to silence. So that is the basic principle behind a trunked radio system, which allows you to use what we see here, just 10 radio frequencies to handle all of the traffic in Washington County. These are the frequencies right here. And you'll notice some of them are in red and have a C after it because those are designated as control channels. So let me explain how this is all working because it definitely affects the quality of your radio communication, and it affects the way you should be using our radios and speaking on them. Let's use the example of a 911 call in the Slinger area. We've just received the page we've gotten in our ambulance, and now we want to call the county and tell them that we're en route. So we tune our radio over to the County Fire Talk Group. Here are our 10 frequencies that are allocated for use in Washington County, and at this moment in time, there's a fire department using frequency 1, a sheriff's department using frequency 2, and Public Works is on frequency 4, and there are police departments using 6, 7, and 9, and there down there, number 10, is the control channel. So you pick up your microphone and press the button. That sends a signal on the control channel to the computer controlling all this traffic, saying somebody on the County Fire Talk Group is trying to speak. The control computer determines that frequency number 3 is available, and so it assigns that frequency to County Fire. When it assigns that frequency, it sends a signal out to all of the radios in the county that are currently tuned in to the County Fire Talk Group and says, somebody on frequency number 3 is trying to speak. Switch to that frequency if you want to hear what they have to say. And all those radios automatically switch to frequency number 3, and they hear you call County Fire from 3052. And then you release the button. Now, the county has to acknowledge you in order that you can give the message. And at this moment in time, Public Works is now using frequency 1 and 4, and the police department is on frequency number 7. So the dispatcher presses the button on their microphone, which sends a signal saying somebody on the County Fire Talk Group is trying to send a message. It determines that frequency number 2 is now available, and it assigns it to County Fire, and the dispatcher says, go ahead 3052, and then releases the button. All of that activity had to take place just for the first part of that conversation. Why is it important that you understand all of that stuff that's happening in the background? Now, the reason it's important for you to have this basic understanding of how the radio works is this concept right here, push-to-talk. We're used to thinking about handheld radios as walkie-talkies. Those are push-to-talk radios. The moment you press that button, they start transmitting, and any other radio on the frequency is receiving. In a trunked radio, a little more activity has to take place, as I just explained. You have to give all the radios in the county a chance to catch up and be ready to hear what you have to say. In the base radios, when you press the button, you will hear a beep. The beep tells you that a frequency has been allocated and you can begin speaking. But remember, there might be some radios in the county that were in scan mode that didn't catch it the first time around and need that extra second to tune into the allocated frequency. So the best habit to get into is to press the button, wait a second or two, and then start speaking, so you don't cut off an important part of your message. The radio protocol we use is called receiver-sender. When we're trying to get someone's attention, you start by stating the intended receiver of the message, and then you state who is sending the message. An example of that is County Fire from Lifestar 3052. Now, if you were going to cut off a part of that message, it's better that County Fire get cut off than Lifestar 3052. The county dispatcher already knows you're trying to talk to them because their computer console said somebody on the County Fire group is talking. So if they don't hear County Fire, that's not a big deal as long as they hear Lifestar 3052. If you were to switch that around and start with Lifestar 3052, if you cut that off, now the county has no idea who's talking and they have to go through all the trouble of getting you to restate who you are and then restate your message. Our protocol also involves using plain text speech. We don't use 10 codes, We don't use any special codes. We speak using normal words and we try and state them clearly. It should sound like a normal conversation. There's been a long tradition in emergency services of moving away from special codes, so no matter who you're talking to and no matter where you are, you can at least understand the message. We ask you to make sure that you are audible on the microphone. Speak directly into the mic. There are some people who have the habit of leaving the microphone in the holder, pressing the button, and speaking as if they're driving in their personal car using their Bluetooth cell phone. Stop that. I see you shaking your head. I can see it from all the way over here. And I know you're thinking, Todd doesn't know what he's talking about. I do it all the time. It's not a problem. Just because the Lifestar dispatchers are patient with you and allow you to respond super quiet because they know what you're planning on saying anyways, doesn't mean it flies when you're talking to a 911 dispatch center. It's especially important because the very nature of the fact that you are responding to a call means they are busy. Now, our microphone's noise reduction technology is directional. In order to avoid all the noise that might be going on around you and off to the side, the microphones are directional and they focus on what's right in front of them. So you need to speak directly into that microphone. Stop shaking your head. Please be professional on the radio. The time to think about what you're going to say is before you've pressed the button and gotten everyone's attention. Time after time, we hear people get on the radio, press the button, and they don't even know what ambulance they're in or what department they're working for at the time, and they get it wrong the first time. Or they press the button and they stumble over word after word until they finally figure out what their message is. Being professional on the radio means thinking about what you're going to say a second or two before you try and get anyone's attention and say it. I also ask you to try to avoid radio speak. Now, some of us have really gotten into the habit of using radio speak because we hear it so often on the radio. Radio speak are all those phrases that mean nothing, but people use them because they think that's how first responders talk, or even worse, they think it makes them sound cool on the radio. Think about the phrase, be advised. There's no phrase that begins with be advised that doesn't mean exactly the same thing if you just forget the be advised and go on with your statement. Example, be advised there's an obstacle in the road. There's an obstacle in the road. Be advised added nothing to that message. All it did was take more time to say. It doesn't mean anything. That also includes phrases like place us or mark us on scene, mark us en route, mark us back in quarters. Marcus is a real busy guy in every county in this state. Referring to yourselves as rescue unit or any other cool phrase to indicate your ambulance doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't make you look any cooler. And then, believe it or not, one of our providers has referred to their ambulance as Mokalakachaka on the radio to a dispatcher. Not professional, doesn't help anything. Keep your speech brief. Remember how there are only 10 frequencies for the entire county? If you get dispatched on a large incident, or you just happen to go out at the same time a couple other things are happening, it doesn't take long before all 10 of those frequencies are used up. So you want to show courtesy to the other services that are using the radio system by keeping your message brief and releasing the frequency back to the county so someone else can use it. You may think the dispatcher is imagining you looking like this when you're talking to them on the radio, but if you're not brief, you're not professional, you can't be heard, and you're using funny phrases, I guarantee you, in the dispatcher's mind, you look like that. All right, this next bit is for the brand spanking new employees who never heard us on the radio at Lifestar. Those of you who have been working for a while here, you're familiar with Lifestar Communications, you should skip forward a little bit until you get to how to communicate on MABAS events. Let's go over some of the common messages that we give dispatch over the radio at Lifestar. We have 5 messages that are more common than anything else. Dispatch needs to know when we go en route, on scene, on transport, at destination, and when we're clear of the call. So using the receiver-sender model of radio protocol and using the proper formal radio etiquette, you're going to call dispatch from 202, for example, and then wait for acknowledgement. We know that dispatchers are frequently on the phone. They might be taking an emergency call. They might be dealing with another crew by telephone in an emergency. So you want to extend the courtesy of giving dispatch a chance to get back to you. And it's not particularly important that they immediately acknowledge you because you're still going en route. So the ambulance is on its way to the patient anyways. Nothing's really changing in terms of the patient care. So just give the dispatch a chance to acknowledge you. Once they acknowledge you, then you would say 202 en route. Now they may answer you right back and confirm the message, or you know they were listening because they already acknowledged you, so they might have moved on to other things. A lot of things happening in dispatch. Give them a break and give them a chance to get their other important tasks done as well. So if it takes time for them to acknowledge that you're en route, it's okay. The ambulance is still on the way to the patient, and you knew they were listening because they acknowledged your initial call. Okay? And the worst thing that happens is they didn't hear your final message and they don't have the correct time in the system. That doesn't change your patient care. It doesn't change the amount of time it takes the ambulance to get to the patient. All you have to do is correct the time later. When you arrive on scene, again, receiver-sender model, dispatch from 202 and wait for their response, then say 202 on scene. Same thing is true when you're on transport, dispatch from 202, 202 on transport. Now, it's possible that the destination that you are taking this patient to is going to change based on your discretion or what's happening with the patient or some kind of diversion or some other factor. So if you are transporting the patient somewhere else, or if this is a 911 call and dispatch never knew where the patient was supposed to go, make sure you include your destination in this message. 202 on transport to Waupun Memorial Hospital. If it's changed and you're going to St. Agnes, that's an important thing to include in the message. When you arrive at your destination, same thing again, dispatch from 202, wait for an answer, and then 202 at destination, mileage 34.2 or whatever it is. That's where you put your mileage in, and dispatch will enter the mileage into the report for you. When you're all done and the ambulance is ready to go back in service, one last time, dispatch from 202, wait for an answer, then 202 is clear of the call. Again, dispatch might be too busy to acknowledge that right away. If you don't receive instructions immediately, it's assumed that you're on your way back to your service area, or you're on your way back to the station, or you're just going to be in your area but you're available for calls. There are some other messages that we use as well. Sometimes we'll call ourselves on air. When you call dispatch and you tell them you're on air, it means you're no longer in your station, and if dispatch wants to get hold of you, they need to call you either on the radio or your squad phone so they can get hold of you. At Lifestar, we generally don't need permission to take our ambulance out on town to run errands, get lunch, pick up food, or do anything else. As long as you're available for the call and you have communications equipment with you so you can be paged or called if we need you, we don't mind if you're out on the town. All you have to do is say on air. You don't have to say on air for food and then fuel. You don't have to tell them why you're going on air. It's enough to tell them you're on air. Another message we use a lot is when we return to our station, we're back in quarters, and now dispatch can no longer call the squad phone or the radio to get us. They have to call the station. You want to call yourselves out at station 6 or 2 or wherever you are. Another common message that we have to give is we're switching over. Switching over means we're taking our main radio in the ambulance and we're tuning to a different talk group. So dispatch, if they try and call us on our dispatch channel, we're not going to hear them. Sometimes we have to do that because our pagers are malfunctioning and we want to switch over to the paging channel so we can hear if any pages come out. Or if we're going on a MABAS call, we're going to switch over to iFern. Or if we're on a mutual aid call, we're going to switch over to somebody else's radio control channel. And we're no longer available on the Lifestar dispatch channel. That we call in and say we're switching over. Communications on a 911 dispatched call through a county 911 center work more or less the same as it works at Lifestar. Any differences in the way in which you're supposed to speak to dispatch will be contained in the 911 response guide that is available in the storage section of EMS Manager. If you are asked to move out of your response area into a different 911 response area and you're not familiar with the radio protocol or which channel you should be on or which dispatch you're talking to, by all means, on your way to the new location, log into EMS Manager, download the 911 response guide and take a peek at it. They're usually 2 to 3 pages and it has all the useful information you need in order to conduct a 911 response in an area in which you are not familiar. The radio protocol, however, remains the same. All the areas in which we respond recognize the receiver-sender model of radio protocol, and if you use it, they will be able to respond appropriately to all of your messages. When it comes to MABAS events, I refer you to the online training that's available on the YouTube channel for Lifestar employees on how MABAS works and how we respond to the MABAS events. Important radio-related issues. Once you leave Lifestar's channel, once dispatch is aware you're going out on this MABAS call, you belong to the stricken community, the community that's requested that you come over there and help. So you should be on their talk groups, their frequencies, and if it's a MABAS event, you're probably on the iFern channel in order to speak to the MABAS division. So refer please to that online training for MABAS for more information in this area, but the most important radio-related issue is when you go en route on the call, you're going to call the MABAS division on iFern and you're going to announce your status. Please remember that MABAS events are where large numbers of responders are all going to the same place, and they're usually all trying to talk at the same time. So you have to be clear and keep your message concise to release the frequency for all those other responders. It's important to note that on MABAS and mutual aid calls, your unit number doesn't matter to dispatch. They don't care if you're in 3052 or 502 or 202. You are simply Lifestar Ambulance. Now, as you're listening to the frequencies, you will hear others using their unit numbers. They do it out of habit. But that's the difference between amateur responders in a volunteer department and professional responders who know better. We've read the MABAS agreement. We understand the requirements of iFern and how we're supposed to communicate, and you understand that we don't use mutual aid on mutual aid calls our unit numbers. You are simply Lifestar Ambulance. A fire department sending a truck would be Slinger Truck. They don't use a unit number if they're doing it the right way. In the rare event that more than one Lifestar Ambulance has been requested into an incident, you are Lifestar First Ambulance, Lifestar Second Ambulance, and so on. And they will refer back to you using that nomenclature. They will call you Lifestar Second Ambulance, understood, on scene. So please try and be professional, clear, and concise in your radio communications, not just at Lifestar, but also for 911 responses and MABAS responses. If you want to learn more about how people are speaking on the radio and get used to the terminology, I refer you to the website radioreference.com. This has a database of radio stations all throughout the United States You can use a map to locate the county that you want to listen to, and you can listen to Washington County, Fond du Lac County, Dodge, Columbia, and Dane County Dispatch. They're all on there, and you can listen to how other departments are speaking on the radio, so you get used to the terminology and get used to what the dispatchers are used to hearing, so that you can speak the same way and avoid confusion when you're responding to events. This is also a good way to remember that there's always somebody listening when you're on the radio, and there's always somebody outside of Lifestar who's listening to Lifestar communications too. So it's best policy to be professional when we're on the radio. Thank you for paying attention. I appreciate your time. I hope you learned a couple things. Be advised, Rescue Marcus Mokalakachaka is 10-7.